The original PlayStation happened a long time ago, and we all have memories about it that are sometimes interesting to go back to. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 things only PlayStation 1 owners will understand. Number 10 is hearing that start screen. On Christmas morning, when you first get a PlayStation, or let's say a couple Christmas mornings in when you get some games, that sound on Christmas meant a new adventure, a plunge to be taken, and it's such an appropriate sound for that. It's sort of a mirage type sound, a hey, you're entering another world message. And there's also just something about Christmas Day itself that I think just works with video games. You're out of school, you're allowed to do whatever you want. You feel free in a way you don't. And again, whether you were getting a PlayStation, booting it up for the first time, or getting a game after owning one for a while, it was your gateway to a new place, a new world, a new adventure, and you didn't have to think about homework. Number 9, turning the PlayStation upside down to get it to work. Now you'll find a large number of reasons why people do this. Some people will tell you it helps with scratched discs. Some will say it makes CDs that the inside plastic ring has worn on, and it may very well actually help those things. But the real reason why it worked is because the original model PlayStation had a plastic slide that was reading the data. Over time, that slide would wear. It was very near the power source and conducted heat, and the heated up plastic was more susceptible to wearing out because even if ever so slightly, it was just a bit more malleable than if it had not been hot. The reason this would cause it not to work is because part of the lens would actually tilt away from the CD, which, even if it happens ever so slightly, is something that stops it from being able to work. If you're not reading the data, you're not reading the data. It's that simple. Turning the PlayStation upside down would realign that lens and allow it to read the data. Now, Sony eventually fixed this in a later PlayStation model, where they made the part out of metal rather than plastic and put it a little bit further away from the power supply. That doesn't mean that it doesn't work with the other problems that people use turning PlayStations upside down to fix, because I could very well see it actually helping if the inner ring of a CD is worn. But now you know the official reason. And if that's the first time you've ever heard this and you've had a PlayStation sitting around for years that doesn't work, go turn that thing upside down and give it a shot. Number 8, hey, remember memory cards? Remember having to figure out which save file you're gonna sacrifice to go through the new game? Or asking yourself the question, can I really leave the PlayStation on all night? The answer is, of course, yes, you can. Leaving it on all night will preserve your position in the game, of course. Why not? Then there's always just playing the whole game in one sitting, which you might die if you tried to do some PlayStation JRPGs in one sitting. Or you could just be like, I'm not gonna play that one. I like it. I know I want to beat it, but maybe I can just start from the beginning some other time. This game is more important to me. And then you delete it, and then you feel guilty about it, and you're like, I could have just left it on all night or played the game in one sitting. Number 7, the official PlayStation CD case. Do you remember this? There were actually a couple of these created in different regions, and you could buy them alone, and there were some bundles that came with them. Alone, you bought it in kind of just a bit of an awkward box that had a picture of the case on the box, which it's a box that holds a thing that holds things. It had like a see-through compartment, a little triangle where you could see through to the material, just to like, I guess, make sure that they weren't ripping you off. Oh yes, definitely that plastic nylon stuff that they use for literally everything like this, from CD cases to even like backpacks, up to this day. Yes, that's very good stuff right there, yes. Number 6, all of the talk that there was a nude code for Tomb Raider. Like, let's be completely clear here. The 1990s was a time when a lot of people were growing up. And Tomb Raider is a game featuring, well, let's just say, some stuff that adolescent boys might like. I guess it's really not exclusive to boys. Girls and whatever else, I'm sure, were kind of like, okay, yeah. Those, both of them, hi. Different strokes for different folks, right? I remember the 1990s. I remember the response to Lara Croft. People really wanted there to be a nude code. Let's just go ahead and say, like, how much people wanted that. They wanted it so much that concerned parents kind of thought it was there. people talked about it so much. And there was always a bunch of outrage about it, and they continued to publish the games. Eventually made ads that said, hey, still no nude code. Like, yeah, we know that's a thing that people talk about, but it's not in the game. How many ads nowadays can you remember where it's advertising that the feature that a lot of people request isn't in the game and isn't going to be? I can't remember any other ads like that for anything, not just games. Number 5, this is just the awesome game lineup, which I'm gonna go ahead and say that gets number 1 for most obvious. But seriously, some of the games on PlayStation are just absolutely amazing and continue to define games as they are today. Like Silent Hill, Resident Evil, Legacy of Kain, Oddworld. I mean, hell, more obvious games like Rayman and Crash Bandicoot. I mean, Medal of Honor came out in 1999. That's kind of the thing Call of Duty spawned out of. You had Gran Turismo, you had Wipeout, Spyro, Tenku Stealth Assassin, and like Final Fantasy VII. There's so much you could say about the lineup of games on the PlayStation. It's just a barrage of endless amazing all the time. It's probably the easiest thing to remember that people who didn't have a PlayStation can't really remember. Number 4, there was a thing called the Pocket Station. The implication is a PlayStation that fits in your pocket. That is not what a Pocket Station is. A Pocket Station is a Dreamcast VMU for the PlayStation. Allow me to explain. In Japan, the Dreamcast came out on November 27th, 1998, and they had a novel idea of making it so their memory card had a screen and its own controls. And Sony was like, yeah, you're not gonna get that over us. Now, while the memory card on the Dreamcast went into the controller itself and the screen then technically functioned on the controller, PlayStation wasn't designed with that kind of functionality in mind, so they made the Pocket Station into a memory card that you could take the screen off of and plug it in to the normal PlayStation memory card slot. Now, the Pocket Station had quite a few of its own interesting little quirks. It had its own games, for instance, but bigger games like Final Fantasy VIII had mini-games that would function with the Pocket Station, and you could use them to collect items that you would use in the real game. Again, basically the Dreamcast VMU. Keep in mind they hit market before the Dreamcast VMU, but they only hit market in Japan. You could never officially buy this thing in North America, and I think that's part of its luster, so to speak. We all heard about it, we all saw it in magazines and stuff like that, but it was the Dreamcast that actually launched in America. So it kinda won in that respect, but not really, because of what happened to the Dreamcast, and really just Sega in general. I mean, I'm not trying to knock the Dreamcast, it was a great system, but let's just say Sony kinda had the last laugh there. Number 3, hoping to use the System Link. Yes, the System Link, a means to link systems that almost no games ever utilized. I mean, don't get me wrong, some pretty awesome games did support it, like Doom, Descent, the Command & Conquers, the Wipeouts, Twisted Metal 3. It was pretty heavy on the racing games. Like, nothing against that, that's actually great. But there's a lot of games that I think probably could have benefited from it that they didn't even really try. I mean, the list of games it's compatible with are certainly longer than what I've said here, but I promise you I wouldn't have played most of it. And to be completely honest, the games that I would have played, I didn't, because I would most of the time be the one that bought those games. It was a weird time in gaming. There's like people who really liked cutesy games and people who really liked not cutesy games. I liked both, but yeah. If I remember right, I only actually ever got to use it a couple times, and it was with Doom, which to be fair was awesome. Number 2, The Thing. You know The Thing. The Thing! Plug in The Thing. We gotta get everybody onto the, yeah. The Thing is obviously a 4-controller adapter. I'm just dramaticizing the situation. That's pretty much how everybody referred to it though, just plug in The Thing. The Thing reminds me very much of a time when playing games together meant sitting on a couch together, having a pizza, roasting some chicken nuggets, or eating a bag of Oreos, or some really unhealthy food, but together. Like, it was just a different time when that type of thing I just had more fun with. Don't get me wrong, I love online multiplayer, but The Thing definitely reminds me of a time I wish would maybe come back. And finally, the long load times. Now, all of the first CD-based consoles were really load heavy. The speed of the discs was not really super high, and they were definitely trying as hard as they could to demonstrate the difference graphically between the 32-bit consoles and the previous 16-bit ones. That meant get those FMVs rolling, high-resolution backgrounds, don't compress that, CD quality music. That doesn't mean MP3s, that means waves. But that's how things are when they're developing tech. Still, if you can recall the difference between playing Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo and playing Chrono Trigger on the PlayStation, oof, that load time is brutal. What things do you remember from the PlayStation that you know other people don't? Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. Click like if you enjoyed the video, and if you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe, and do not forget to click the notification bell. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time, right here on gameranx.